This is Cultaho, and I'm going to be going over the current beta release features of the Mega Man 03 level editor. After the video, I highly recommend referring to the README, as everything that I'll be going over will be written out there. It also has an invite link to the Zero Series ROM Hacking Discord server. This is a web-based level editor meant to be user-friendly. You can find it on my website at cultaho.com. All testing has been done with the newest release of Chrome. Other browsers may or may not work as expected. Both the US and Japanese releases are supported, as well as ROMs patched with the Practice ROM patch. We'll start by loading up a JP Practice ROM. Currently, the website is built with static locations of UI elements and as such will not scale or move based on browser window size. For the best user experience, I recommend ensuring that there are minimal scroll bars shown in the window. Maximizing the window on at least a 1080p monitor should easily work well. The UI will auto-load into Flizzard stage, room 138, which is a starting room, and with layer BG1 minimap displayed. The left canvas, shown here, will have BG layers 1, 2, and 3, as well as the object layers and the grid on top. They can all be toggled on and off, but the grid must be shown to select or draw blocks. For the object layer, they're only going to show you the enemies, pickups, and doors. Any of the dynamic, movable object or special things that load in, like the bucket drops in Flizzard, aren't going to be shown. I hope to implement those in a later release. The right canvas is the block drawer. It holds all available blocks for the current tile set. At the bottom is a mini-map of the currently selected layer for the stage. Solid collision is denoted with purple, kill blocks are in red, and white is no collision. Be aware that movable objects, triggers, and mini-bosses and doors are all unchangeable at this time. You can soft lock the player if a cutscene forces them to walk to the right and there's a wall in front of them. Note, when editing a room, it modifies it globally for the stage, so any rooms that are reused elsewhere would also see the changes. Selecting a room on the map will load that room in correlated layers at the location. As you can see here, I'm going left to right on the Flizzard stage. Some rooms are special and will not have a visible BG2 or 3 layer, but instead in-game use a dynamically generated one. We cannot modify those at this time. Another thing of note is that the game can move what layers are displayed in what order. This isn't fully understood yet by myself, but may be changeable, and I'll go over that in a minute. You can manually reorder the BG sorting if you'd like to see how the room will look with different BG orders, and that is done right here. But anything you do there, it doesn't actually affect the game, that's just for viewing it. Hitting load room will load that specific room only. As you can see here, since it's the BG1 layer room, we no longer see BG layer 2 or 3. However, the game doesn't know what layer this room is going to be used on. That's defined by the grid position in a different table. You can use this to remove the other layers, so you can better draw just what you're going to be affecting. You must save room changes if you make a change and want it to stick. If you don't want to, you can just hit load again. You'll get a warning saying that there's unsaved room changes, and it will revert to the room how it was. You should also get a warning if you accidentally change stuff and try to navigate away, and you can cancel that to go back and save the room at that time. Drawing. On the block drawer, a left or a right click will select a block, which will make it appear in the currently selected block canvas, as you can see here. There's an identifier for the block and what kind of type it's assigned. Left clicking on the room canvas will draw the currently selected block. You can also click and drag You can right-click any block that's in the room canvas to select that block as well, which is nice when you're trying to do things quickly that are side by side instead of having to go to your huge block drawer. There's a filter on the right that you can click to sort the blocks by what type they are. Blocks with 0 are no collision, so all these blocks have no collision. Blocks with 1 have collision. Slopes, ladders, ice, conveyors all have their own block types. Those are typically larger numbers. As you can see here, we have some minor slopes and larger slopes for 10 through 13. 17 is a kill block. There's more than just 17 that will kill a player. There are some special block types later on. Usually they're self-explanatory, as they'll be spikes or lava in this case. The current tile set is shown in the select box here. It's automatically picked in nearly all instances. However, if you want or need to manually select one, you can change it. So if we're looking at this and this didn't look right or we needed to change it, you can change it like this and it'll show you the different tile sets that are available. This is most useful in the intro. The game handles the intro very interesting. It basically takes these rooms over here and replaces them over here when there's differences, such as the ice blocks falling. And that's just how they manage to do collision. But since they aren't using this area of the map over here, they didn't set what tile set it should be. So we can manually select just to see what the room looks like. And so here you can tell that they cut out certain blocks and that's where the ice would be. Intro's a little bit special on that. You'd have to mess with things and to figure out how the rooms transition if you wanted to work with the intro in that manner. Otherwise, the player actually never goes over there. But that's what you would use the manual tile selection just to get a feel for what it would look like. You can, right here, set these tile sets manually, and it's per room. And if you set it to something that doesn't exist, or say we swapped it, it could make things really wonky. So I suggest to keep it at the very least in what exists already, like 3-2, 3-4, 0-1, 0-2. This is the first tile set, and this is the second tile set. So going back to Blizzard, as this is my primary example. So here we also have the VRAM and palette buttons. This is just for reference. Currently you can't do anything, but it does show you pretty cool what the tile sets are with a default palette. This is just like it would show up in game. And you can kind of see what blocks we are to work with, like what's loaded in memory. So, and then what palettes. Next I'm going to go over the objects. As you can see here, there's a blue box with a number in it. That is going to be the object. And if you turn off the grid, because the grid's for drawing the actual blocks in the room, once that's off, you get a tooltip and it shows you the location, X and Y, that object is placed at, as well as what object it is. So object number 25 on this particular map is a cannon tower, what I called A, which is the single stack for the cannon. Click the object button to expand more about the objects here. Once you click one, it becomes the active object, the stored object that's being acted upon. So it populates the X and Y. These are read-only fields. You can't change any of this manually. But what you can do, it also keeps track of when you click something that's not an object, the XY value updates for that. So if I wanted to click here, I said I wanted that this object to spawn here, I would just hit update. And as you can see, it moves. If I didn't want this to be a cannon, I wanted this to be something else that's allowed in the level, I could say make it a Pantheon and update. And now as you can see, it's a Pantheon. You can also use this list. It shows every single object that's in the current stage, and it's listed in order from left to right. This is very important for how the game handles spawning things. Everything should be taken care of you. You shouldn't have to worry about it yourself. So if you decide to say, put this cannon tower over here instead, it automatically reorders it. So if you want to delete something, you can either set it to 0 and just say empty, or you can just set delete, and that'll remove it from the list entirely. However, you can only add a new one if the ROM is expanded, which I'm sure everybody is going to want to do anyway, and I'll get to that in a moment. So if you wanted to click a location and say, here I want a large health refill, you do that and then you hit add new. But once the ROM is expanded, you can add up to 500 objects in the stage. This is just a limit that I set. It could be higher if we find that it's necessary. You can only put objects in the stage that were assigned to be in that stage at this time. This is because all of these sprite sheets and palettes are loaded in a specific way that I haven't figured out yet, so I'm unable to change that. So you can only load things that already exist, and that's everything in this list you can load. You may come into some places where certain sprite sheets get kind of messed up in certain areas, and if that happens, we can try to figure it out and fix it. I think I've only seen it where the boss is not where it's supposed to be, which isn't able to happen anyway with the current editor. All right, next I'm going to go over the e-reader options. There's a button up here. These are a lot of the kind of cool e-reader options that are available in the game, and you can set these yourself. Most of these changes are only going to change the base, but there's a bunch of stuff that'll actually change how things work throughout the game. So you can change the e-crystals to look like a sphere or a tripod. You can change how the secret discs looks, your extra lives, lemons, everything like that, and this will affect the whole game. There is a reference button here that shows you all the changes and what to expect. So you can change the background images, what computers used, if it's day or night, and here's all what those look like for all those changes. I think the drill is kind of cool, personally. Next, I'll go over checkpoints. The checkpoint button is here, and it should show you all the current checkpoints in the stage. There are going to be some that are special, such as in the intro. There's a specific spawn point for after you, or there's a specific spawn for when you skip the intro, and there's another spawn for when if you say you died and needed to respawn. They're slightly different. There's also a spawn for after the cutscene, boss hallway, and the boss. These are just names that I put in them. You can't adjust those because you can only have this many checkpoints at the current time. And you can modify their XY position. You can use the object layer here to kind of get whatever XY you'd like to try it and move a checkpoint to. I highly recommend to only move certain ones. Don't touch the boss hallway or boss unless you know what you're doing, especially not the boss. But for, like, say you wanted to change the height of the starting room that you're in, you would move the very first start CP, and then as you go, you can set your checkpoints. So that be careful with that. You can also choose if you're facing left or right. I think there's only like one in the game where you face left naturally, but this allows you to change it. All right, next I'm going to go over the camera scrolling. This is what really helped us out to be able to fully unlock this editor. So as you can see here, there's a scroll type, and there's 0 through F. It's really 1 through 15. And how the game uses it is that 0 is pretty much used in wide open areas. It's where there's freely, the camera can scroll and move everywhere. There's nothing locks it in place. And then it looks for differences of 2. So as you can see here, this space is not something you can access in game. It has an F. F is a really special case because if you go into an area that's marked as F, a room, you will die. And that's what was preventing us from expanding this, because we could move where rooms were, but we couldn't, if we didn't know how to change that, then you just die. So if you go in here and you change this to 0, you'll get a warning that it's not saved because you haven't saved anything yet. But that will allow us to go down here without dying now. It'll also make the camera scroll differently. So, for example, let's put a room down here that's not in use yet and update this. So 1313 is an unused room. There's no real blocks in here. So you can see it's all zeros. If we expand ROM, we'll have access to up to 255 rooms, which I will be doing in a moment. So let's draw some stuff in here. Let's just draw a basic ground. And then let's save this room. Let's go above, and we're going to create a hole. So there's a hole. Save this room. And I'm gonna hit save ROM. This is gonna download the ROM into a file that's downloaded, obviously, duh. And then I'm gonna open that up. And of course, I'm totally ready to capture this. Open this. There we go. So here's the game. And because of the practice ROM, we can quickly skip in, and also we can warp around to see our changes. This is why I highly recommend playing around on the practice ROM for this. And we're going to load in this room to the right should have a hole in it. But as you can see, the camera let the scroll down because it thinks it can scroll down there, and it can. Because we told it can. And now we can go down here without dying. So the background's all going to be weird because the background's programmed in a certain way, but without changing this scroll type to 0 or whatever else we wanted, we wouldn't be able to come down here at all. So let me close this and get back. So now say that we don't want the camera to scroll down here. We just want to be able to go in it. We could set this to 2, the scroll type to 2, which says because it's greater than 2 from 0, it's not going to scroll down here unless the player enters the room. And usually this is used with doors, because doors are, if we go over to this room, doors push you through solid objects. This is a solid wall. So when the user, the sprite of the door isn't shown here, but there's a door here. If a user touches the door, it just takes control and it pushes you through the wall. And when it does that, the scroll then scrolls to the next room because it's greater than 2. And here, this room is 0, and this room is 2, and then this room is 0 again. So that's how it keeps the scroll in this room until the user's pushed through. The user doesn't have to be pushed through for the scroll to work. You can see examples of that easily in the intro. But that's just the most common use of it. So if I were to set this to 2 now, and then I loaded this up again, instead of the camera going down when I got over to that area, it's going to stay above because it's greater than 2. But I can dip below, and then suddenly the camera's locked down here. Because it's, once again, it's surrounded by Fs and then a 0 above. So that's how the camera scrolling works. Alright, along with that, I kind of skipped over it, but this is where you can assign what room is in this position. And I assigned the 113. If I assign, say, 138, which is already in use, you'll see down here, now this room looks like this. because it's the same room as this. So if I were to modify this here, it would look the exact same in both places. That's just how it works. I picked an empty one because that's usually what you want to do when you're creating a new path for a player. Also, the map background layers, this is what is assigned, what rooms are assigned in each layer. So there's some special layering going on, but this says, you know, this is all going to be in this layer. They drew this cool little background layer in these rooms, and they're using custom settings to be able to show it up here as well, and how it scrolls. So that's all stuff that you'll have to play with to learn. The camera values next to here, this is what defines what layers are going to show up where and how they're going to show up. You're going to have to trial and error those. I haven't figured them out yet, but it is available for you to update. Grid position you can't update yourself. That's automatic whenever you click on a room. And that should be everything for that. Now I'll go over expanding the ROM. This is what the most exciting part is. All you gotta do is hit expand ROM. It's gonna warn you that it's increasing the ROM size from 8 megs to 16 megs, and it's gonna update the pointers to use new space. So when I do this, it automatically takes your current rooms and copies them over to the new space as well. So say you started working on this, did a bunch of work, and then you want to expand it, you're gonna keep your changes. And then it repoints all the new changes, though, to the new area. And that's all stuff you don't have to worry about. You can see this unused room list just populated up because we have up to 255 total rooms, and we're not using anything past that point, obviously, because we only copied what existed. So now down here, instead of 138, I could pick, 246. And that's going to be a blank room where I can, once again, I can draw whatever I want down here. Save it. And apparently I drew all. Said save it. Ah, there we go. So apparently there's a slight bug in there where might have to select another stage and come back, or let's save this and just select a different. Yeah, okay. So you can just select a different layer and select back for the minimap to update. I might have that fixed here shortly because I thought I did resolve that. Either way, you have all these rooms now you can work with, and you can put wherever you want to make your paths through the stage. Just to be careful what your scroll type is, and if you put a room here, the room doesn't define what scroll type it is, it's the position. So you'll have to always change, and all these solid blocks out here that aren't in the normal stage, you'll need to change them from F to 0, or some other lower number. So now that we've expanded the ROM, you can see up here the ROM shows us 16 megabytes. We have all these extra rooms, and also it will allow us to have up to 500 objects placed. That is most of everything you'll need to know to create your own custom levels. I am going to warn you about certain stages. The particular one that I'm thinking about is Cactank. So this one is really messed up. At this time, I recommend not messing around with it because it's going to be wonky. You can try, but I had to do a custom workaround to make it work a little better, and apparently the last change I made really screwed it up even worse. So hopefully I can figure out Cactank before long. But you have all these other stages you can mess with at this time. Including the base. Alright, so the last step is going to be creating a patch. Since we don't want to have to share the 16 megabyte ROM across Discord servers, that's not the most legal thing, we're going to create a patch. It's going to be a difference of the changes. So once we have our ROM here all ready to go, we're going to hit save ROM, and like I said before, that's going to download it into your download folder. And then we're going to go to this website. The link to this will be in the description, and also it's in the README. And this is what's going to create it for us. So we're going to go to creator mode, this little toggle. We're going to say original ROM, and this is going to be the original ROM that you started on. So the base, what base you expect. So if you're, and this is before any changes too. If you're doing the practice ROM, you want to select the practice ROM. If you're doing, Mega Man 03 with the English version, you want to select that. And then you want to choose the modified, the one that we just downloaded. And this is going to be a BPS patch. This is because we're expanding it, and it handles things better, and it does allow for higher size ROMs. And then we're going to say create patch, and that's it. It is going to download the BPS patch locally. And then when you want to apply that, you just go over here to creator mode. You select your ROM file, and this is once again the base ROM. So in this case, it'd be the Z3 practice. And then you're going to choose the patch that you just created. And it's going to do the CRC check and everything. And then you just hit apply patch, and that's going to download the patched ROM for you with all of your changes. The BPS patch is what you can share in the ROM hacking Discord with others, and the best way to have fun and share your work. If you have any further questions, please join the Discord. And if you'd like to help out the project, let me know. Have a good one.